It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, what is up, everybody? How are you guys doing this evening? I hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully, you guys are doing good, staying healthy, your families are healthy, you know, all that good stuff. Jesus asked a question. He said, how does my kids feel about me doing YouTube? And that's an interesting question. My family is really supportive of this YouTube thing because I really don't have very many hobbies. My favorite, hobby or thing that I like to do is camping or outdoor stuff, hiking, you know, anything on a lake, paddleboarding, that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff, but I don't get to do it very often. So my family is very supportive of this YouTube thing because it's something fun that I really enjoy doing. And you know, they know it, so they all like it. And my wife helps out with it. You know, she handles all the merch sales and everything and shipping and packaging and all that good stuff. And then she's been taking a little bit of a bigger role as far as the video stuff goes, and she's even started her own social media page. If you guys don't already follow her on Instagram, it's Facebook. It's at HVACR wife, one word. That's her Instagram handle and her Facebook handle, and she's actually going to start posting some more content about, you know, how we live our lives and stuff. And also, we have coming up, my wife and I, Jill is my wife, and she is going to be doing another HVACR live video series. So if you guys don't already know, we have a little series. We've done 5 of them so far called How We Live the HVACR Life. The first one is just kind of an introduction. The second one, a couple of them. We talk about finances, health, and that kind of stuff. We talk about COVID in one of them. So it's been about a year since we've done an episode, so it's about time that we do another one. So we were going to do it actually Saturday, but it didn't work out. But hopefully in the next week or two, we should see another episode of the How We Live the HVACR Life series popping up. And then maybe you know, in the future, that might be something that pops up on her HVACR wife YouTube channel, which we haven't started posting anything on, but I think that will come in the future. So just something cool. you know, the whole plan with the HVACR wife thing is literally just to tell people how we make it work, because this is a crazy trade. It's frustrating, stressful. It's hard with a family. And that's something a lot of my comments and things I want to talk about today have to do with that, because this has really been beating me down lately. You know, I've been in the trade for over 20 years and I've done this, you know, for all my life, but it's really been getting at me lately. And there's a lot of reasons why and stuff. So let's start the stream right, okay? I know we have a lot of new people in here, right? My name is Chris. I'm just an HVACR service technician here in Southern California. I started making these videos for my own employees. Got myself into a position where I lost 3 employees at the same time. Put my company in a bind because we only had 5 employees at the time. Put me in a bind. It was really my own fault as to why I lost so many employees at the same time. But we... you know, overcame it and came up from it. And one of the things that I started doing in the midst of all that was I hired a bunch of new people that had experience, but just not experience in the way that I needed them to be experienced. So thank you very much for that super chat or super sticker, whatever it is. It's much appreciated. You guys are awesome with the support. You always have been. So, but I started making these videos as a training aid for my new employees, and it just kind of evolved from there. So if you go to my YouTube channel, the first 2 videos were never meant to be for the public. They were literally just for my employees, just cool troubleshooting things that I ran into. And I kind of got the courage to make them public, and then here we are now. It's kind of crazy. It's been a couple years. I officially started my YouTube channel in November of 2017. And it's been a crazy ride, and I have so many people to thank. Those of you that are watching, I get to thank you guys. It's amazing, all the support that all of you have given me. It's a very humbling experience for sure. So let me see what we got in here. So as usual, if you guys do have questions that you want me to cover, you want to put them in caps lock. That way I can get to them, or I try to see them. If I don't answer your guys' questions, you can try to repost them until myself or one of the moderators tells you to stop. If I miss your question, just feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, okay? All right, so why are so many people afraid of R600, R290? It's not much different from the propane barbecue grill or the Bic lighter in most people's pocket, or is there something you're not understanding? So hydrocarbon refrigerants, R600, that's isobutane. R290 is scientific grade propane. It is different from the barbecue propane. In that the barbecue propane is basically not as pure as R290, and there's no odorant, there's no smell to refrigerant grade R290, okay? So why are so many people afraid of it? Because people just don't understand change, and they don't like change. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I'm so used to the things I'm used to. When you throw something new in the mix, it kind of confuses me, okay? And then on top of that, we're a little bit unsure about putting a highly flammable refrigerant in a pressurized vessel that is energized with electricity, and in our heads has the potential to go boom. Now, the argument can be made that the amount of R290, about 500 or 200... what is it? 500 grams? No, I'm tripping right now. Is it 500 grams or is it 250 grams? I think it's 250 grams. The charge limitation right now, I think, is 250. It's like 5 ounces or something like that is the maximum amount of R290 or R600 that you can put into a system. The argument can be made that's about the amount that's in a Bic lighter. I've heard that argument a bunch of times, okay? And the difference between a Bic lighter and a refrigeration system with R290 or R600, either one, is that the refrigerant compressor is a pressurized vessel that has electricity going to it, and if someone doesn't treat it correctly, there can be some issues. Now, is the explosion from an R290 refrigerator going to blow up a house? That's highly unlikely, okay? Is there actually going to be an explosion? That is very highly unlikely, but there is some best practices that you need to take as a technician to make sure that you're being safe when working with a flammable refrigerant. Now, we have a lot of these new A2L refrigerants too, which are mildly flammable refrigerants, such as R32 and other ones like that. Those are things we have to consider too. When it comes to hydrocarbon refrigerants, R290 and R600, you do not use the normal equipment that you would use on those. Okay, it is legal and safe to vent those two refrigerants into the atmosphere because they are considered natural refrigerants. But you also need to be careful about venting them in confined spaces or places where there's explosion hazards and different things like that. But to answer your question, is there really that much different between a hydrocarbon refrigerant and a normal refrigerant when it comes to the service side of things? Not really. If we actually follow the best practices that we've been taught from the beginning when we went to trade school and stuff like that, it's really not that much different, except for the fact that you don't recover it with a typical recovery machine. They do make recovery machines or recovery methods to recover hydrocarbon refrigerants, but you do not use the normal ones that you have on your truck. Okay. And in the United States, they're not really anything that's available commercially that's easy to get to that is made for recovering those hydrocarbon refrigerants. Okay. You know, it's really just about safety and understanding. Okay. We have a tendency of being lazy and sloppy when we do certain tasks in HVACR. We don't do a good job of pulling proper evacuations. We typically don't do a good job of purging the system before we braze or anything like that. And those are things that you really need to make sure you're doing properly when it comes with hydrocarbon refrigerants. One of the key things is before you open up a system, before you light a torch on a system that has hydrocarbon refrigerants, you're supposed to purge that entire system with clean, dry nitrogen, push it through the system, get rid of any pockets in that system. I have a couple videos on my channel where I was doing hydrocarbon work, changing a compressor and things like that. And even after I vented the system, even after I purged with nitrogen, I went to go braze in the compressor. And when I would wave my torch across one of the open tubes, it would light like a lighter because there's still little vapors that can be stuck in there. So you just need to be cautious, but it's really not that big of a deal. Okay. I work on it all the time. My technicians work on it all the time. You just need to follow some best practices. And that's pretty much it. It's nothing really too scary about it. So let's see what else we got going on in this chat right now. What reach-in manufacturer do I find to be the most tech-friendly? I mean, they all have their quirks and features, right? If any of you guys watch Doug DeMuro, I love his little tagline there. We're going to find all of its quirks and features. Which reach-in manufacturers do I find to be most friendly? It's really just about what you're comfortable working on. Now, me personally, I work on a lot of true refrigerators. I work on a lot of Hvacr refrigerators, Delfield refrigerators, and I find those to be the most tech-friendly. Now, you put those in the hand of someone that has never worked on one of those, and they're not going to be as comfortable. So it's really about what you're comfortable working on. I do not have one that I'm going to say is better than the other of those three because they all have little quirks about them that make them frustrating in different ways. But I mean, those are the three. If I was given the choice to sell one of them, I would sell either a Delfield, a True, or a Hvacr one is what I would probably sell. Trolson's kind of on there. Trolson's pretty much the same thing as Hvacr. They're owned by the same company. They're actually badged the same a lot of times. They're very similar, so that's another one too. Let me see what else we in here. Don't you need air, oxygen, along with sparks to make that go boom? Yes, Nellic Vids, you do need the three sources of combustion to make an explosion with R290. But when you think about it, it's not so much that I'm worried about explosions. What I'm actually worried about the most with an R290 system is a terminal vent. Okay, a terminal vent is when one of the compressor terminals blows out or there's an internal short and the compressor arcs inside and the terminal vents. It pops, right? And then you have an ignition source, right? Because you're venting that combustible gas. If you have never seen the repercussions, I've seen 404A vent and cause a little explosion. Not a boom, blow things up, but a little fire coming out the side of the compressor because there was a terminal vent, there was really hot oil, and you have to have the perfect situation. So with R290, that's my biggest fear, is a terminal vent that ignites something else on fire. And that's where it gets to be a little bit sketchy, but it's just one of those things. You learn to work on it, so it's not that big of a deal. Do I buy my employees water or let them dry out like Brad does? Yeah, we supply them with water and stuff like that. We have it in the shop. Honestly, nobody's been taking it. I have giant jugs of water, and I'll get them water jugs and offer all that stuff. But all my guys know to stay hydrated and everything. How do you deal? I already lost the question. Have you seen the Doug DeMuro YTP videos? No, I don't know if I've seen those ones yet. Let's see. Just in my opinion, what's the best or my favorite refrigerant? R22. How do you deal with the stress of managing the guys in the field? iWorld Leader, that is one of my biggest struggles, and I want to get a little bit into that tonight. I'm not going to forget to get into that because that's actually on my topic of things to talk about, okay? But a few things I want to get to first. First and foremost, We have a lot of new changes coming into this industry when it comes to walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers. We have a new energy efficiency code spreading across the nation right now. It's being implemented by the Department of Energy. It is a federal code that all walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers that are 3,000 square feet or less, they have to follow certain criteria. We call it the AWEF, AWEF, and that is the annual walk-in energy factor or something like that. I have it right here, annual walk-in efficiency factors. There you go. Basically, the easiest way to understand these new energy codes, it's very similar to the SEER ratings that we have on our existing air conditioning equipment for residential and commercial, okay? So it's about time that they tackle the refrigeration side, and the Coke nose is already going off strong. So the AWEF energy efficiency standards are basically going to lower the energy consumption of your refrigeration equipment. The most common way that the manufacturers are doing this, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's a big issue with this, okay? The reason why the manufacturers are doing this, or the government is implementing it, is because they want to lower the energy efficiency, okay? And the way that the manufacturers are complying is to lower the head pressure or float the head pressure of our refrigeration equipment, okay? So what they do is the head pressure control valves now do not energize or do not start bypassing or flooding the condenser until a much lower system pressure, okay? Sometimes 100 psi to 125, 150 psi is when the head pressure control valve is going to start to bypass. Now, it's not just as simple as putting on a head pressure control valve. What they're actually doing is they're oversizing the condensers. They're putting extra subcooling loops in there. So essentially, they're making the system much more efficient. Now, with that being said, I've seen a lot of people complaining that these new energy efficient condensing units are causing my system to not work properly in the wintertime. We get a lot of the guys in back east and the Midwest complaining about this, okay? Now, I do agree that back there where they have extreme cold environments, there is some things they really need to consider, but that's where the system design comes in. If you're ever changing a condensing unit and you get one of these new AWEF compliant condensing units, which pretty much is going to be all of them coming out from this point forward, you cannot just simply throw them on a system that's existing and assume that a new condensing unit is going to solve your problem. Because these newer condensing units are set to operate and float the head pressure down, you have to size your expansion valves accordingly, guys. The expansion valves, whether they be thermostatic or electronic, have to be sized accordingly. There's some tricky ways to do that because now they're running lower liquid line temperatures, they're running lower condensing temperatures, and that all affects the way that you size your expansion valve. Sporland's actually done a really good job. I've talked to a bunch of people over there, and they have a service bulletin right here. It's 500-10, okay? You guys can very easily look that up. AWEF factors for TEVs, 500-10-AWEF, AWEF. And this is actually going to change the way that you size an expansion valve. So if you're working on any of these systems that have the new AWEF compliant condensing units, you guys want to get this document and you want to make sure that your expansion valves are sized appropriately. At the same time, you also need to make sure that your refrigeration line sizes are correct too. Now, the downside to floating the head pressure down is you're reducing the pressure drop across the expansion valve. If you have a thermostatically controlled expansion valve, the pressure drop is what makes the refrigerant feed through that valve properly. So the valve itself... The valve itself can only do so much because it has your bulb and then it has the spring on the bottom, okay? And it can only do so much, but it can only control the refrigerant at a certain velocity. And that velocity is controlled by the pressure drop. You have so much pressure coming in on the liquid side, there has to be a certain pressure drop across this valve for it to work properly. But with the new AWEF requirements, we're reducing that pressure drop. We're potentially lowering it, okay? And that can cause issues with the valve sizing. And that's where you guys really need to look into the new Sporland Tech Bulletin. 500-10-AWEF, and it will explain how to properly size those valves. If you guys wouldn't mind, what I'd really suggest you guys do is go over to Sporlin's YouTube channel, okay? I'm going to post a link inside the chat right now, and go subscribe, and they actually have a video talking about sizing the expansion valves for the new AWEF compliant systems. And it's something that we're all going to have to start paying attention to because everything's changing. And so, like I said, if we go buy an existing, if we go to a system that's existing and we just need to change the condensing unit, you really need to focus on that expansion valve to make sure that it's sized appropriately. Because when we drop that pressure and float the head pressure down, it's going to affect the expansion valve, whether it be electronic or thermostatic. So you guys really need to look into that. That's something we really need to be concerned about, making sure that we do that stuff right, because there's some big changes coming when it comes to that, okay? The other thing I wanted to talk about too, and I'll get back to the chat. I know that you guys know this, but man, do we need help in this industry, okay? If you guys know someone, if you guys know a kid that just isn't made out for college, push him to the trades if he's mechanically inclined. Any of the trades: electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, refrigeration, being a mechanic. All of the skilled trades right now need technicians badly. So we need to do a better part of recruiting and bringing new young blood into this trade. I try my best with these videos, putting these out there, and I do get a lot of response and a lot of cool emails from people that decided to make career changes and stuff because they watch the videos. And that's a very great feeling. You know, I mean, it feels really good to know that, you know, someone may have considered changing and gotten into this trade because they watched one of my videos or something. But I mean, we could all do something, guys. We really need the work. And I think we need to encourage more kids to get into the trades because it's good, honest money. You know, there's definitely some things about the trades that I want to change, but I love this industry. I really do. Okay. So let me see what I'm missing in the chat right now. What is the most frustrating thing I've experienced as far as frustrating goes? I mean, all kinds of stuff, you know. Dealing with running a business is extremely frustrating. Someone asked me about managing employees in the field. That's a frustrating task. Just in general, running a business is probably the most frustrating thing that I've ever experienced. This is the general day-to-day of running a business, things happening, not understanding that new laws have passed that you didn't know passed 3 years ago, and then all of a sudden you're getting fined by federal government because you didn't know that these tax laws changed and all this stuff. There's so much changing, it's hard to keep up with it all. So that's the most frustrating thing is running a business in general. Do I solder the other half of that valve together, or does it bolt together with a gasket? Do I solder the other half of... No, I cut that valve in half for testing purposes to be able to show everybody what's going on. And I actually need to hang it back. My daughter built me that crane, and I hang this valve from that Technique. It's a Lego Technique crane. That thing's really cool. I want to make like a little Lego package unit for it. It's really neat. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Has a manufacturer ever asked me to do something dangerous while troubleshooting? Not that I can think of. No, not that I can really think of or remember to say. Let me see. Why do I not use CO2 to blow out drains? Alex. Okay, so that's a good question. I prefer not to use CO2 when I'm blowing out drains because it's bit me in the butt too many times where I've had technicians go out and clear a walk-in drain, and they grab their CO2 and they blow it, and the CO2 makes it through the drain, but it doesn't clear the drain, okay? I like using water to clear drains, and the reason why I like using water is because if you take a hose and you put the full force of a hose on a 7/8 inch drain line or a 3/4 inch drain line, it will fill the entire cavity and scrub the walls. Thank you so much for that super chat. Holy moly. Berm Cannon, I really appreciate it, bud. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute, okay? Yeah, the water fills the entire cavity and can scrub the walls of the drain, where CO2 will actually just go around the obstruction. So that's why I really like to use water, and I find it to be much more effective and find it to be, you know, just better in general for clearing drains. Like I said, I've had a specific situation. I can think of the exact situation right now where you put CO2 on the drain and it blew some stuff out and it would drain. But then when there would be a lot of water, it wouldn't drain because the CO2 wouldn't clear the entire drain cavity, basically. So because that bit me in the butt really hard, I always try to do that. Now, also CO2, there's so much pressure in a CO2 tank, and we typically don't have regulators on it, that you can actually damage components and equipment by using CO2 also. So you have to be very careful, because when we go get a tank of CO2, you put a little adapter on it, you put a 1/4-inch gauge hose on it, you cut the other end off and you shove it in a drain. That's unregulated pressure. And I mean, boom, you could blow things apart that aren't supposed to have that much pressure in them. You put CO2 on a PVC line and you can cause some damage if it's an old system, for sure. So you want to be careful about that. So let's see. Berm Cannon, you said Nate is a scam, and so you're so tired of organizations coming up with the new hoops for techs to jump through to be legit. And thanks for the nice comment. So let's address that comment. So I've heard this many times that Nate is a scam. It's a money-making ploy, all these different things. And while I will agree there is a money-making aspect to Nate, I do tend to support training organizations. But before you chastise me, just listen. The reason why I like certifications is because in order to maintain a Nate certification, you have to keep going to school. So you have to continue your education. But to back up your comment too, I will say the way that Nate recently changed, about 3-4 years ago, they changed the way that they do their certifications. You have to continue your education and you still have to pay a fee every year. You know, so it's like, I don't know how much I like the fees that you have to pay to be a certified tech, but at the same time, I really like the component of any kind of a certification, whether it be an RSCS CM certification, a CMS certification, HVAC excellence, Nate. What I really like about all of those is that in order to maintain those certifications, you have to continually go to school and show that you're constantly educating yourself and bettering yourself. Okay. So I really like that aspect of it. I don't so much like the aspect of having to pay this money all the time. But you know, it's one of those things where I mean, is it really that much money? You know, like I go back and forth in my head. The principle of the matter is like, man, I hate to have to pay this $200 or whatever it is every year. But at the same time, I mean, you know, is it that much in the grand scheme? You know, I don't know. I mean, honestly, if I required my technicians to maintain a Nate certification, the way that I would do it, which I don't require them to do so, but the way that I would do it is I would say, look, I need you to get a Nate certification, but I will pay for the renewal so long as you maintain the educational credits. So I would have no problem as an employer paying for their renewal as long as they kept it up. But that's just the way I do things. I have no problem sending my guys to school if they want to take training classes and things like that. So long as it's relevant to what we do, I would totally be open to that. All right. I want to talk about smart evaporators. Get a lot of comments, and I see a lot of negative comments towards smart evaporators. Rip all that electronic junk out of there and put mechanical controls and mechanical valves just like it was in the old days. It used to work so much better in the old days, and it was easy in the old days, and that stuff's a bunch of junk, and all this newfangled foreign crap is junk. I mean, I see these comments all the time in my chat, okay? And while I get frustrated at times, okay, I do support the advancement of our industry with new technology, okay? It's cool, but on the flip side, I'm still a mechanic that fixes things, and I still see problems, okay? Let's see, Pennsylvania, I see that super sticker. Thank you so very much for that. I really appreciate it. And then Pennsylvania AC Productions, thanks so much for that super chat too, man. That is amazing. You are awesome. You guys in this amazing support is great, okay? So when it comes to electronic evaporators and all this technology, I like it, but on the flip side, as a service technician, sometimes it's frustrating, okay? So, for instance, I don't work on it a lot, so I'm ignorant to the fact on how they all operate because I don't work on a lot of the new smart evaporators. I have a few of them, okay? And recently I went and did a service call. I made a video on it where I went out in the middle of the night because they had an emergency service call for their walk-in freezer, and it has this KE2 evap efficiency controller, which is their big technological advanced EEVs. Everything's all built into it, and it has a scrolling display on it, but it's really hard to read. The easiest way to get into that the system is to plug in a computer. Well, It's 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. I'm out there working on a walk-in freezer, defrosting it. By the time I get it defrosted, it's midnight. I don't want to bust out my computer. Plus, I didn't even have it with me that day. So it's frustrating on that aspect, okay? But once you get used to this new electronic stuff and you start working on it, it is nice, okay? Now, with that being said, okay, like I said, I do support the new technology in the industry. At the same time, there's times that the new technology can be frustrating, okay? So, you know, I will install mechanical defrost clocks and maybe just a dumb digital thermostat over putting in a full smart defrost evaporator setup, okay? And the reason why is because if you have a circuit board that controls your defrost and you have demand defrost, it is neat, but occasionally you get that problem customer that constantly leaves doors open and constantly ices up their equipment. And sometimes when you're troubleshooting that stuff, it can be really hard to know. And I've gone down this path just recently where I've gone out to a customer 3-4 times to de-ice their walk-in freezer. And 2 or 3 of the 4 times I've told them, you guys need to shut the door. You're not shutting the doors. It's the door. It's the door. It's the door. And then I'll go fix the door, put new hinges, put curtains on it, whatever. And then it keeps icing up. And then come to find, you know what? There's actually another problem. So, and it can be hard to find those intermittent problems when you have smart evaporators, because is there a problem with the board? You don't know. Is it not defrosting? You don't know, because you're not there when it happens. Now, when you get into this new fancy stuff like the Ketotherm evap efficiency controllers, you can hook up a computer and you can see graphing and see if it actually did defrost. But with some of the systems you can't, or like my technicians, they don't know how to get into the KE2 stuff. So as a business owner, that becomes kind of hard for me because I don't send them all with laptops and all that stuff. So there's times that I like mechanical and old school, but I'm not one of those thumpers that's out there saying, throw it all away and just go back to old school. Like, I understand the need for this new stuff. We, as technicians, just need more training, in my opinion, and we need to work on this stuff more often and be more comfortable with it to where we don't get flustered, okay? I consider myself to be a pretty good person when it comes to technology and troubleshooting things, but even I stumble on some of this electronic stuff. I walk up and I'm like, okay, I gotta stare at it for a minute and think about it. But sometimes it's good to get my brain thinking like that. So I just saw another super chat come through. T-Lech, thank you so very much for that super chat. That is amazing. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. My goodness, guys, there's a bunch coming through right now. Thank you. I just saw another one come through. And Unapologetic apologist. Thank you, bud. I really, really appreciate it. Am I against Stay Bright 8? You've been using it for years, but you know a lot of guys hate it and call it hack work. I'm not against brazing. You just find Stay Bright 8 to be stronger and cleaner. Okay, so I am not a person that's going to say you're a hack if you use Stay Bright 8. Now, I personally don't use it. If you guys don't know what Stay Bright 8 is, it is a brand of solder that is a low temperature solder that claims to be able to hold steady with higher pressure systems. So I have a lot of systems that have Stay Bright 8 on it, okay? Russell Refrigeration, in the past, I don't know if they still do it, Cold Zone Russell Refrigeration used to constantly use it for the point of which the distributor or the bell of a distributor for a walk-in cooler would be brazed to the distribution tubes. The little bell would have little, 6 distribution tubes on it going to the evaporator after the expansion valve, and those would all be with low temperature solder. And we notoriously had leaks on those all the time. Now, I am not against using different solders, but here's the problem you run into. Let's say you have a joint that has Stay Bright 8 on it, okay? And you don't work with that very often. I don't carry that stuff in my truck. So I come up on a refrigerant leak and it's leaking, okay? What do you do to fix it, right? Clean it up. You put some silver solder on there maybe and try to mix the silver solder with the Stay Bright 8. I have not had very good luck mixing the two solders. In my opinion, when you have one solder like Stay Bright 8, you need to go back with Stay Bright 8. Now, I've heard people say that they do fine just putting silver solder on it or something like that. Personally, myself, I haven't had very good luck. So I don't use the low temperature solders. The two solders that I use 15% Silphos brazing rods, okay? And then I use 56% silver solder for anything else. And then obviously 95.5 for plumbing, that stuff, no big deal. But You know, I'm not going to call anybody a hack for using Stay Bright 8 or anything like that, but I just find it to be problematic on the refrigeration side when I'm dealing with the stuff that I deal with. Maybe for residential and stuff like that, it works fine, and so be it. I understand the need for it. I just don't use it. So, but I have nothing bad to say. Like, I'm not going to say you're a hack or anything like that. Let's see, what am I missing here? All right, I'm going to get to my list of things to talk about. You know, lately in my videos, I've been a little bit on the negative side when it comes to service calls and overtime service calls. And this is where I want to talk about things. It's really easy. I see people in my comments saying, why are you so negative? You shouldn't be negative in your comments. You shouldn't be negative on your videos. You should always be positive. You are an influencer. You have a duty to make things look good and all that fancy stuff. Okay. So I understand their arguments and I hear them, but something you guys have to remember is that I am a human. I have emotions, I have frustrations, I have stress, I have all kinds of things going on. And yes, while it may seem really easy to type in a comment and say, you need to calm down, bro, you're bitching about whatever, you know, anything, you don't know what I went through that day. Now, that doesn't mean that I can be a butthead or a jerk, but just remember something, guys. Everybody, there's always a reason someone does something, okay? Whether it be a good reason or a bad reason, there's always a reason behind it. And if you don't understand the context, it's really easy to judge from the other side and not know that someone is going through something, okay? So why have I been negative in my videos? Now, I will say that some of the people that have made comments on my videos, it's kind of funny because you guys, the viewers, tend to come to my defense, and I appreciate that in the comments, okay? But sometimes, you know, I will usually address negativity in the end of my video. So if you don't watch till the end, you're actually missing out because I usually address the questions. I usually try to talk about things before, you know, because I assume that people are going to ask certain questions and I'll usually address them towards the end of the video. So oftentimes if I show negativity or something like that towards the customer or whatever, I usually address it in the show notes of the video. So I'd encourage all you guys to go watch the show notes and or the end of the video, and you guys will get context as to what's going on. But to enlighten a few people, I'm a service technician. I go out and I fix refrigerators and air conditioners at restaurants. At the same time, I'm a father of 2 girls. I have 2 teenage girls. I have a wife. I have a home. And I also run an air conditioning and refrigeration business. So there's stresses all over my life. And oftentimes I get frustrated. Lately, right now, I am short on employees. And while I am hiring, I'm not looking to train any non-experienced techs at the time because I'm currently focusing on one apprentice right now and I'm training him and he's doing really good, but it's going to be some time. So I'm focusing all my efforts on training him. In the meantime, I should have 5 service technicians and I have 2, one of them being myself. Okay. So I have a service guy that does maintenances and installs for me. Okay. I have myself, another service technician, and I have an apprentice. So I have 4 employees working for me, but I should have 5 service technicians, and I don't, okay? So with that being said, I'm getting burnt out. Now, when we get burnt out in this trade, it's really easy to happen because you're overworked, you're slammed. What happens is we tend to do silly things. We tend to make mistakes. With that being said, because I'm understaffed, I'm not going to burn out my employees. So therefore, in my situation, I've taken it upon myself. We have a 5-week on-call rotation. My other service tech that does service calls, I only have him do 1 week of that 5-week rotation, and I do 4 weeks in a row. So I'm on call 4 weeks in a row. I have another service technician on call for the last week, okay? We also do a little bit of a different call thing, so it's not really a full week of being on call. It's a long story. I'd have to explain it another time, but with that being said, I'm just enlightening you guys to some context. I'm not asking for pity or anything like that, okay? I just choose, as an employer, to take the burden on myself instead of putting it on my employees, okay? I don't want to overwork anybody and I don't want to burn anybody out. At the same time, I have to be careful because I'm approaching the edge of burning myself out, okay? But it's just a struggle. As an employer, this is the things I have to take on. You got to think about everybody. How do I manage my employees in the field, okay? It's a struggle. You know, you try to make sure that everybody has the tools that they need and the resources they need to fix things properly. Again, as an employer, people get sick, people get hurt, accidents happen, all kinds of stuff. So these are all things you have to account for and understand that they are going to come, and you have to be prepared for them. So it can be a struggle as a business owner, but I'm not asking for pity at all. It's just that's what's real. So if you hear negativity in my videos, I'm venting. I'm being human, okay? At the same time, I always know that I got to take care of my customers. I don't want to put my customer in a bad place. I don't want to make them feel bad. So while I do get frustrated with my customers occasionally, okay, I don't ever talk bad about a particular customer. I may point out some things that are kind of silly, that here's the text from the work order or something like that, but I find that funny. I like to show you guys that this is real. I deal with the everyday struggles that all of you guys like to deal with too. And on top of that, one thing that I don't feel like enough people talk about in the trades, and I don't feel like enough of us people that are on YouTube or Instagram or influencers, whatever you want to call us, talk about, is mental health. Okay, we all go through things. I don't know how long you guys have watched me. I don't know how much you know about me, but I struggle with bipolar disorder. I struggle with anxiety. I have real issues. So on top of my normal business life, on top of running a business and all this stuff, I struggle with real stuff just like everybody else. I am human, okay? So I'm not saying I get a pass or anything like that. I'm just trying to tell you guys it's real. The struggle is real. We all go through it in one way or another, okay? And yes, it can be argued that we choose our own destinies and all that stuff. That's true, okay? You know, I put myself in the positions that I'm in, and that's fine, okay? But it's okay. I feel like you guys all need to hear this too, is that we all go through anxiety. We all go through marital stuff, health stuff, family stuff, okay? That's why I've been closing out my videos with, and my live streams and everything with an encouraging phrase, be kind to one another. We really, really do need more kindness, guys. Even I find myself getting caught up in road rage and stuff, driving, and someone cuts me off and I flip them off, and it's like, why? Why did I do that? Because the only person that helps when I let my anger get the best of me, the only satisfaction that anybody gets from that is myself, okay? The person that cut me off or whatever, it doesn't, I mean, I know it, I don't know the answers, but I just know that we need more kindness. We really, really do. Okay. David HVAC Pro 89. Thank you so much for that super chat. He says he's watched me since day one and still look up to me. Thanks for doing everything. I really, really do try to be a good mentor, or whatever you want to call it, but I am just human. I'm a normal service technician. I try to show my mistakes as much as possible to show that I'm real. Okay. All right. Let's see. But Mr. Green, I didn't say, and you said, man, I thought you needed a vacation. You're being sarcastic, but I didn't mean that for like a pity party. Okay. I'm just telling you guys, like, everybody goes through things. I bring on my own stress. My wife jokes, because sometimes I've joked and said, man, I just need to shut my business down and go work for someone. And my wife will pull me aside and she'll say, Chris, you know that you can't work for anybody. And you know, and she's telling me this, she'll say, you know that wherever you go, you're going to bring stress, because that's just the person. I'm just tightly wound. That's who I am. So I live that way. And while it not be healthy, that's just me. I live stressed all the time. That's just the way that I am. So I'm sure you guys all have similar things, anxiety, stress, problems. Just know you're not alone. And the best piece of advice, because I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not any of that stuff. The best piece of advice I can give to everybody is talk to someone. Talk to your significant other, talk to a family member, talk to a friend. Just vent. It helps so much, especially with me. I used to bottle things up because I felt like I didn't need to bring the stress from work home to my wife, and I would just bury it in my chest. And then about once a month, once every 2 months, I'd explode. And my wife would, you know, over something simple, and I'd be extremely rude to her when she didn't deserve it, because, and it wasn't that I was mad at whatever she did. It was just that it finally bottled up and popped, you know? So for me, talking to someone has helped me so much. Talking to some friends, even if it's just texting someone. See a doctor. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because I certainly wasn't. I went to a doctor and I just went and saw a therapist. I was diagnosed with whatever. I worked through the treatment, and it's made me a better person. So I encourage all of you guys, when you have issues, when you have struggles, to talk to someone, whether it be a friend, a family member, a doctor, whatever. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's too many people out there that you hear these horrible situations of people committing suicide or horrible things like that, and that is not the answer. So talk to someone, get help if you guys have struggles or issues, because I know we all do. Okay, let's get on back to some HVAC talk now that I went off on my rant on that. Okay, let me see what we got going on in the chat right now. What am I missing? Any advice on brazing U-joints on evaporators? Seem to always blow the one next to it. Yes. Great question. What you want to do is you want to change the tip. You want to be using an oxyacetylene torch for one. You want to change to a 0 tip, okay? Order a 0 tip, whatever you have to do. Set your pressures accordingly. I get this question a lot. A lot of people tend to set their pressures incorrectly when it comes to the tips that they have on your torches. Each torch tip that you buy, whether it be from Hvacr, Uniweld, whoever it is, will typically tell you on the box where to set the pressures. Okay, so on the I believe on the 0 tip, I believe they call for 5 and 5 psi, I think, if I remember right, whatever it says on the packaging. But set your tip accordingly, or the pressure accordingly. Sand everything up around it, put heat blocking compound on everything around it, but by using a 0 tip, it'll focus the heat a lot better and not flare it out. And also understand that condensers or evaporators, if you're welding on the U-bends, it is very thin copper. It's thinned out, so it will flare really quickly. So the way you apply heat slowly, and then I'll kind of dabble the solder on there, and I'm not soldering the joint yet. I'm just getting the solder to see when it starts to flow, and once it starts flowing, I'll put more solder on there. The important thing when you're welding or brazing on U-bends, on evaporators or condensers, it's a little bit different than brazing a joint, is that I just realized it sounded like I was saying blazing a joint. But when you're brazing a joint, is you want to keep applying the solder, because the solder is actually going to help to dissipate the heat at the same time it's being effective and moving it, and constantly be moving your torch tip too. So hopefully that helps you a little bit there, bud. And I saw a few more super chats come through. Laska, thank you so very much, man. I really, really appreciate it. So he says, take the anger out on my equipment I'm working on. Make that thing so pretty that you just can't help but stand back and smile. That's a great, great point, Laska. That is a great one. And then Pennsylvania AC Production, thank you very much for that super chat again. And he's asking me, what is my favorite exhaust fan brand? I like some captive air stuff. Some of it's really stupid. I like some green hex stuff. Some of it's very stupid. There's a local company to me called Central Blower. They make very high quality utility style exhaust fans. I think that they're my probably one of my favorites. But I do have to say, let's step back into the 1980s, and you give me a good Donaldson exhaust fan. Those things lasted forever. They could be rebuilt. They were great exhaust fans to work on. So I really did. I cut my teeth on the Donaldson exhaust fans for sure. They were a pain. You sometimes have to give coveralls on because those things were so big, but I worked on those a lot and they lasted forever. Jay Leroy, thank you so very much, man. Right on. We'll have a Joe Rogan moment over here. Okay. All right. Just let my anger out on the equipment, flip them off, or curse at them for nothing working. There you go. Peter Smart, really appreciate it, man. Have a drink. There you go. Cheers, bud. Thank you so very much for that super chat. You guys are blowing me away with this support. It is amazing. Why are the restaurants cutting the PM programs? I get this question every week, and I feel like I have to address it because it's an important question. I've explained this a million times, but they're cutting the PM programs because that's typically the first thing on the chopping block, because labor's a given, materials or food costs are a given, utilities are a given, but when it comes to maintaining your equipment, that's usually the quickest thing that you can cut to try to save money in a bind, okay? Now, someone had asked me in my comments or something, well, why doesn't the corporate offices, the greedy corporate offices, just take a pay cut temporarily or start moving things around temporarily and just keep maintaining their equipment? Something that you have to think about is most of these restaurants are corporate chains, being that they're publicly traded companies. When you're a publicly traded company, you can't really play around with that kind of stuff because the shareholders, us that are purchasing shares in these companies, are constantly wanting returns on our investment. Therefore, the corporations are constantly doing everything they can to make the shareholders happy. It's kind of a curse with the company that goes public because, of course, once you go public, there's more money. Okay, bottom line, there's more money, you have more capital to work with, but at the same time, you're at the mercy of the shareholders because the shareholders are demanding they get a return on their investment. And that can be a struggle. When you're a private restaurant company or a private corporation, it's easier to say, okay, you know what? As the president, I'm going to take a pay cut, or as these people, we're all going to take pay cuts, or we're going to move things around. We're going to, but it's hard when it's a publicly traded company. These restaurants, for the most part, are trying to do everything they can to survive. And while I agree they are in business to make money, and of course, they're going to do what they can to make money, they're just trying their best to survive. And it's my best interest to keep these companies, when I'm working for them, profitable. So I need to make a profit as a business owner, but at the same time, I also need to be aware and I have empathy for the fact that they need to survive this craziness too. They're struggling just as much. So it's just like a lose-lose situation, really. I mean, they're doing everything they can. On the plus note, one of my major customers just sent me a quote request for PM service, which they haven't done in like 8 years, which is a really good sign that things are getting better because they're going back to PM service. I think they finally realized that things are just costing them too much money. So that is a really good sign, and I hope that it all works out. I'm going to mark that one off my list and get to the chat and see what I missed here, okay? Advantages on inverter compressor, and have I ever worked on R32? No, I have not worked on R32. What are the advantages with inverter compressors? Well, capacity control is the #1 advantage, okay? If you can slow down and speed up the compressor, you can do so when there's a demand and you're not wasting energy. At the same time, you can get, if it's set up right and you have the right sensors and the right equipment, you can control humidity better, and that can be a benefit too. So customer comfort and or system operation efficiency is all going to get better with inverter driven equipment. Now, on the technician side of inverter driven equipment, it gets harder and harder as a normal technician because we have a million things to remember. And now we got to know how to work on this one particular piece of equipment that's inverter driven. We have to know the parameters on how to adjust the VFDs, program the logic, and all that stuff. So it can be frustrating as a technician with all this new technology too. Okay. Let's see what else we got in here. Deep well sockets make great fuses. Don't ever take a well socket for a fuse, but that is pretty funny. How do I determine new line set size when retrofitting walk-in equipment? Sporlan actually has a great method for that. If you go to Sporlan's website, just go to sporlan.com, sporlanonline.com, and they have a sizing tool. Let me think of here. What is it called? Hold on. So sporlanonline.com. It is called, hold on one sec, it'll pull up here in a second if I type this thing on. It's called Virtual Engineer. If you go to sporlan.com, sporlanonline.com, parker.com, whatever, click the Virtual Engineer tab, and you can actually go in there and you can input your system parameters, the evaporator BTU, the line set length, and it will help you to figure out what size pipe you need for your risers, for your all the runs. It'll help you figure it all out with Sporlan Virtual Engineer. You can size expansion valves, system components, all that good stuff. So when it comes to doing a walk-in cooler, the way that you're going to do it, the way that I'll size it, and one of these days I'm going to do a video on this. I keep saying I'm going to, but you go in and you need to find out your required load first. So you do a load calculation on the space that's going to be cooled, okay, just like you would with the house, but it's a walk-in refrigerator. Then after you find your load calculation, you're going to select your equipment. Once you've selected your equipment, your condenser and your evaporator, then you're going to start selecting the components. And then based off of your evaporator capacity and your condensing unit capacity, you're going to look at the line sizes and you're going to determine how big the lines need to be, how long they are, and all that good stuff. It's very important if you're converting to the new refrigerants, right? Toby, thanks so much for that super sticker, bud. So if you're working with the new refrigerants, 448A, that's the most common refrigerant I'm using these days. Compared to a 404 system, okay, the line sizes are going to be dramatically reduced. So you might have a walk-in cooler with 404 that has a 7/8 inch line set. With 448/8, it might have a 5/8 inch line set. I mean, it's going to dramatically be reduced, and that line size does need to be reduced. Now, there's a little bit of give and play with line sizing. You can fudge the numbers a little bit, but you need to be careful that you're not messing with the pressure drop, because sizing of your lines is going to affect your oil return back to the compressor. It's going to affect the velocity of the refrigerant. So you got to make sure you size the lines properly, okay? Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Something that I have learned, and I see it in my comments, and I've said it many times before, is you want to be very cautious when you go to these service calls, especially the late night overtime service calls. Ignorance is bliss. Don't go in there asking them how long it's been down, because that's just going to irritate you when they say, well, when I got there this morning, I noticed it was at 60 degrees, but I thought it would fix itself. So I waited until 5 o'clock on Friday night to call you. Okay. Now, I want to also talk about and address the comments that I get and that everybody gets. Okay. Why am I complaining about a service call when I'm making money from it? Okay. Again, that's a fair argument. Okay. Because it's easy to say that if I don't do this service call, they'll just call someone else. It's as easy as that. Okay. So I need to be thankful and happy, but it's okay to still be frustrated. And you guys are my friends that I will vent to. I'll say it in a video. This is frustrating. You know, this thing's been down all day, and here I am now wasting my time. I was at a thing. I was at this. I was at that. Bottom line, I need to keep the customer happy. And I may make a comment in my video or something like that, but I'm going to bite my tongue and be professional to the customer and be polite and just fix it. Bottom line. Okay. All right. I already addressed that question. Definitely very important. Let me see what else we got in here. When you don't have fuses, just use a jumper wire and be a hack. Yeah, I don't know about that either. All right. Let me see. Have I accidentally punctured an evaporator coil? No, I've never accidentally punctured an evaporator coil. I've accidentally put a screw through a condenser coil, though. And that was at the end of a really hot day when it was over 100 degrees outside, and I'd been working on the roof all day long, and I was putting the equipment back together. I finally got it repaired. I think I changed an expansion valve, got the system charged up, putting all the panels back on, and I put a screw right through the condenser coil. And it was just a crappy end to my day because I had to fix the leak. I was able to fix it, luckily, vacuum the system down again, recharge it. It was a pain. So let's see what else we got in here. Has my dad accidentally cleared a building before? Not that I know of. If a 10-ton R22 system needs an evaporator, replace it or just replace the entire system? Joe Morgan, it really depends on the complexity of the system. You know, how hard is it going to be to change it? I mean, certainly it's going to be in your best interest to upgrade the system for sure. But I mean, you know, my customers typically don't want to upgrade anything, and they're constantly fixing R22 equipment. So I'm fine with it. I mean, it is what it is. The price of R22 is through the roof, but my customers are still happy paying for it. So I just go for it. I did have a question right here. Anthony had asked me if TDX20, that's Blueon's refrigerant. I'm sure they're going to come out with more, but at the moment, that's their only refrigerant. He's asking me, is that better than R22? I'm going to say no, it's not better than R22. I'm sure there's an argument that Blueon makes to say that it's more efficient than R22, okay? But the simple fact that majority of the time, to convert to Blueon, you're going to have to jump through hoops. So, of course, taking, you know, EPA crap and environmental crap out of your head, is it better to use R22 or to use an R22 alternative? I'm going to say it's better to use R22. Now, inserting the fact that you're worried about global warming and, you know, the hippies and all this different stuff, of course, you want to try to convert that system over and upgrade the system, put in a new 410A system. But even then, putting in a new 410A one, 410A is on the chopping block. 3 years from now, you're going to be trying to find a replacement for 410A. So I don't know. It really depends on what the customers wants to do. Okay. You know, I'll always give them a big picture quote. Here's your best bet. You should change this equipment, convert it to this, do that. And they don't always accept the big picture quote. And they want me to go back in with what's there, put a new evaporator coil in it, put a new condenser coil, put a new compressor. Okay. All right. It is what it is. I just give them a quote and they choose not to go with it, and I do what they want. So, what is something specific to SoCal that no other region would understand? Humidity. We don't know what humidity is in the Inland Empire and most of Southern California. Therefore, You know, we have a lot of fires and different things like that. Right now we're experiencing a lot of fires. It's because we have really high heat. It can be in excess of 120 degrees, and we have really low humidity. So when it's 120 degrees outside, it's typically like below 10% relative humidity. So it's extremely dry. So your skin dries out, and the heat is just overbearing. So that is definitely something that majority of the country does not understand. Arizona, Nevada, they kind of understand it a little bit because they're kind of dry just like us. But California in general is a desert. It's not meant to be inhabited by all these people like we have. It's meant to be just a dry, arid environment that has occasional, you know, nice areas. But that's something that people don't understand. That and avocados. I don't know why the rest of the country hates on avocados, but avocados are the greatest fruit ever, and we put those things on everything. Hell, we even make avocado toast for breakfast. One of my favorite things to have. Avocados, mayonnaise, salt and pepper, and red onions on a piece of toast. Epic breakfast right there, guys. So most of the country does not understand the love for avocados that California has. All right, what's the beef with Blueon? Don't I dislike them? Jay Leroy. No, it's not that I dislike Blueon, okay? What happened was a couple years back, Blueon had a marketing team, and they were contacting me left and right to try to advertise on my YouTube channel. And honestly, I was blowing them off. I wasn't answering any of their emails because I wasn't really interested in it. And the better person of me probably should have just said, hey, I'm not interested, but I didn't, okay? So then what happened was in my live streams, someone from Blueon had come in here and they were trying to promote Blueon in my live streams without talking to me first. So I had a little bit of an issue with Blueon, and I actually banned them as an advertiser on my channel. So Blueon went around me and just started targeting my audience. It wasn't just me. They targeted, you know, in advertisements. They go to YouTube and they say, we want to advertise to this demographic of whatever. So it just so happened that a lot of their ads were popping up on my YouTube videos. So when they pissed me off, I do have the ability to go in and specifically say, I do not want them as an advertiser. I don't get to choose advertisers that YouTube puts on, but I can say I do not want this person. So for a while, about a year, I had them on a do not advertise list on YouTube. Now I've since relaxed on that, and they can advertise on my channel now when it comes to YouTube, but that's the only issue. I have nothing bad to say about Blueon. It was just an issue with the marketing department. So again, water under the bridge, life moves on. I'm not, whatever, you know, like I said, I took that block off. I know they advertise on my channel now. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I have no beef with Blueon. It's just, I just didn't like their marketing practices in the very beginning. So let's see what else. Do avocados raise the humidity percentage? Yes, they do, but not on a grand level. But we do need to have the right humidity for the avocados to be in the walk-in and be cooled properly. It was so hot you blasted R22 down your pants to cool off. Is that legal? Yeah, sure, Dave G. Sure. Yeah, that sounds like a great legal thing. That's pretty funny, bud. All right, let's see what else. What would I do if I had to work in 95% humidity and 85 degrees? I'd probably lose my mind, and I can guarantee you that I would not be wearing long sleeve shirts like I do. So I currently wear a black undershirt, like an Under Armour heat gear shirt every single day. That's short sleeve. And then I have a long sleeve Dickies t-shirt or work shirt that I wear every single day, no matter if it's 120, no matter if it's 20 degrees outside. I wear that same long sleeve shirt every single day. If it was 85% relative humidity, I would not be wearing long sleeve shirts. I know a lot of people in my comments say, how is it that you can wear a long sleeve in that heat? It's because there's no humidity. And it actually, I'm more concerned with keeping the sun off my skin. But if we had high humidity, I'd definitely be having to wear sunscreen and wear a short sleeve shirt. But I hate wearing sunscreen, so that's why I wear long sleeve all the time. Let's see what else we got in the chat. Okay, I'm going to get to my list. Oh, there you go. I'm going to answer that. Mr. Green, why does Carrier use 2-pole contactors instead of 3 poles? Okay, to be completely fair and honest about this, for the longest time, I thought that Carrier used a 2-pole contactor on their 3-phase systems because it was a source of crankcase heater, okay? But it is not. That is absolutely incorrect, and I was incorrect about that. I've since been educated on that. Joe Shearer was one of the guys. He reached out to me, and Eric Melee Both of them have YouTube channels, and they both kind of said, hey, that's not right. And they gave me some examples, and they proved me wrong. So I was incorrect. The only reason why Carrier uses a 2-pole contactor, or even Trane uses a 2-pole contactor on their package units when it's 3-phase, is to save money. Plain and simple. That's what it is. It's just to save money. Let's see. What do I do with R12? Keep using it until the system dies and then recover it and take it to be disposed of properly. All right. Let me go ahead and get to my list of things to talk about. So why don't I talk my customers into installing wireless monitoring systems on all their walk-in coolers and freezers and eliminate these nuisance service calls? Okay, that's a great point to be made. A lot of people have said that. Number one, I will tell you for sure, the wireless systems are actually going to create more nuisance service calls. Okay, they will, because sensors fail. People leave doors open. You drive out, you find it iced. You find that there's nothing wrong. Someone just must have had the door open. So they will. I agree that they will probably help a little bit too, but they will create nuisance service calls in my area. Number two, my customers are very sensitive about having internet connected things in their buildings. All of my different customers, they're all corporately owned companies, and none of them want to have things connected to the internet in their locations. Do you guys, maybe you guys don't remember this. What is it? Probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, there was a data breach at Target, the retailer, right? The department store, Target. There was a huge data breach. And the way that they hacked the system was someone got in through the building automation system. My understanding, I could be wrong, but that was the way I understood it. Someone got in through the building automation system, through like a back door or something like that, and got in and was able to hack their credit card machines, and it was a whole giant nightmare. Obviously, things have changed, protocols have changed, people have been more secure on their systems, but most of my customers don't even want to deal with the headache of potentially exposing their credit card information and stuff to the internet. So they don't want to have internet controlled anything in their restaurants. They don't want to have extra routers, automation systems. I even have some restaurants that have automation systems, but they're very rare are they connected to the internet. I have a restaurant that has a whole Trane setup. Trane sold them. That Trane salesman came out and sold them spaceships that could take them to the moon. And they even have the Trane proprietary software and everything, but it is not connected to the internet, which is the dumbest thing ever, but whatever. I just saw a super sticker come through. B, thank you very much for that super chat. You said, are Daikin mini splits any good? You're needing to upgrade. Mitsubishi looks best on Sear, but higher on price. Is Mr. Cool Amazon cheap crap? Okay, I've never used a Mr. Cool. I've read good and bad things about them. They're basically DIY installed mini splits. Let's be fair right now too and say that majority of the mini splits are all made by the same companies. Okay, so to be fair about that, I bet you anything the Mr. Cool mini splits probably fall into that category. Okay, now I don't do a lot of mini split work, but I have heard that the Mitsubishi mini splits are pretty much the bee's knees when it comes to the top of the line mini splits. They are expensive. It's hard to get them. You have to go through certain distributors. I've worked on them a few times. They've been rather pleasant to work on. I mean, they're still a mini split, so they're still frustrating. So my understanding is mini splits, the top of the game would be a Mitsubishi. I don't know about Daikin. I got nothing bad or good to say about Daikin. I've only heard good things about the mini split. I mean, I've only heard feedback on the Mitsubishi stuff. So I've installed like Samsung, Fujitsu. It's all the same stuff, really. But the Mitsubishi definitely has the best claims as far as like their their hyperheat system and stuff for the heat pump systems to be able to heat all the way down in really cold environments and stuff. I've heard nothing but good stuff about those. But they're expensive and they know it. They know their stuff don't stink, kind of a thing. Okay. Let's see what else we got in here. I saw a super sticker come through from Peter. Thank you very much, man. You guys are blowing me away with this support. Pennsylvania AC Productions. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in here. So I talked about that. Let me get down into here. You've installed 68 mini splits this season already. Right on, bud. Yeah, I really don't do much of that at all. How much do I charge for service charge, labor rate, and parts markup? Thanks. Elite Air, feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I'd rather not talk about that in the public eye. So let's get on to the next thing. What am I missing in here? I'm going to go up in here. What do I think is the most reliable package unit? Again, it's going to be about what your preference is and what you're comfortable working on. I am very comfortable working on Carrier package units and Lennox package units. Lennox is probably my favorite. It's not that the other ones are any worse. It's just that I work on Lennox and Carrier the most, so I'm super comfortable. The parts are readily available in my area. And that's just what I'm comfortable with. So that would be my choice, would be a Lennox first, Carrier second, and kind of go from there. Let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, please, guys, if you could smash the thumbs up button. It definitely helps out the stream. I don't think I've given a shameful plug yet, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the shameful plug. If you guys haven't already, please check out my website, hvacrvideos.com. It's a great way to support the channel. We got beanies available, cuffed, non-cuffed. We got hats, shirts, zip-up hoodies, women's t-shirts. I'm gonna give you guys a tease right now. This is probably not going to come out for another year because it's going to take me a long time to figure this out. But I have a really, really cool t-shirt design. I'm actually having to hire an artist, a cartoonist, to draw this up, and then I have to, it's going to be a whole process. Like I said, it's probably not going to be a year or so before this gets done. It's going to take a lot of money investing too, but I really have thought about this t-shirt design for so many years. I'm just going to give some hints. It's a throwback to the 1980s and 1970s hot rod t-shirts. Okay, it's going to be a throwback to those, but it's going to be relevant to HVAC. It's going to have the Rat Fink-ish designs like Ed Roth designed on the old hot rod t-shirts, and colors and different things like that. So just stay tuned. It's probably not going to be for a year or so, but we are working on that. Okay. Let's see what else we got in here. Good gosh. Apparently some bots came into the chat for sure, man. Let me see. Yeah, smash the like button for sure. Definitely. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Looks like spam bots are attacking my stream right now. I guess that's a good thing, right? That means that I've made it. All right, so why not? Okay, so in reference to my last video, I was working on a walk-in freezer, and I said that I had left some stuff for the electrician to finish, and he never finished it, but I had gotten the equipment operational in the meantime. Why did I not just leave the equipment off until the electrician came out and did his job? That's a great question. And basically, when I do my walk-in freezers and walk-in cooler installs, there's food in the box the entire time. I typically don't have the customer take the box out of commission. It's running the entire time. The downtime is 2 to 3 hours typically between turning it off and turning the new system back on. So I typically don't have time. So I'll oftentimes get it up and running. Maybe the wire size is too small. I'll make sure that it's not running over current or something like that, but we'll typically get it up and running, have the electrician come in after the fact and fix it, do what he needs to do. And in some cases, like in the case of my last video, the electrician never came back in. I don't honestly know if I told him to come in, what happened. I don't know where the ball got dropped, but the electrician never came in to finish that job. Luckily, it wasn't a safety issue really per se. I guess it kind of could be argued that it was, but anyways, it is what it is. We got to get it up and running. We got to have it operational. We don't have time to leave it off. Let's see. I've had this question a bunch of times. I do use electronic invoicing to let me know. I can track service history. That's a question that comes up all the time. The electronic invoicing program that I use, Pennsylvania AC, again, thank you very much for that super chat, man. You're killing it right now. You don't have to keep doing that just to ask a question, but your support is much appreciated, bud. Okay. Have I ever used Blueon refrigerant? Yeah, Blueon is just a brand name for R410A. That's all that it is. Okay. Carrier just called the refrigerant Blueon. It's just a brand name, but it's 410A. Yeah, I've used 410A a bunch in my career. It's one of the most common refrigerants that I use. Actually, I don't think Blueon is Carrier's name. I think that was one of the refrigerant manufacturers' names. But anyways, same thing with Freon. Freon is DuPont. DuPont owns the name Freon. That was just their trade name. Just like Blueon calls their refrigerant Blueon, it's really TDX20. But Freon is a common term that people all think, oh my gosh, that's R22, but actually the DuPont brand has been bought out. I believe ChemWars, this is where I'm getting really shady. ChemWars owns it now or whatever, and the the term Freon is on multiple different refrigerants. It's not just to do with R22 anymore. So let me see. I'm going through my list of things. Oh yeah, so the electronic tickets. Yeah, the invoicing program that I use is called Intuit Field Service Management. It is a electronic system that I've used for like 10 years or something. So I can see in the field, I can see service history for the last at least 2 years. So, you know, oftentimes in my videos, if I say, I don't know if I worked on this recently, it's because I haven't pulled up my invoicing program, but I can look up invoices, history, all that different stuff. So we crossed that one off the list of talking about. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about too, before these live streams, when you guys send me emails and comments in the YouTube videos, I typically go through and consolidate all the most common questions. And I have a giant list in front of me right now with all the questions, just things that I know to talk about. So, ooh, this is a really good thing. Brian had brought up a point, and great point, Brian. Brian said, hey, I need to consider, he was telling me I should consider telling my customers that they need to wait and I'll get there when I can get there. And he's in reference to me talking about my recent video where I worked on a walk-in freezer and I said I had to leave my daughter's cheerleading practice and I was frustrated. You know, the reason why I said that was just to let you guys know the kind of stuff I go through. It's the same stuff I'd assume you guys are going through too. When I'm on call as much as I am, it gets frustrating. Sometimes I just have to go try to make it to my daughter's cheerleading practice, of which my daughter's at cheerleading practice right now. And I'm not there because I do this live stream. But so how come I don't tell my customers, you know what, I'm going to come out there after my daughter's cheerleading practice, or I'm going to come out there after dinner? Because oftentimes I'll be cooking dinner, and if it's something that doesn't require me, I'll have my wife take over and I'll go do the service call. And sometimes I won't eat dinner with them. Okay. The reason why I do that is because of my own insanity. Okay. The way that I think about it is if I get a service call, right? Let's say right now I got a service call that was an emergency service call, but I had to go to dinner first. I would skip dinner and go do the service call. And the reason why is because I would still have to do the service call when I'm done with dinner. And oftentimes I can't take tomorrow off because I'm understaffed, right? And overworked. So I can't take tomorrow off. So the sooner I get the call done, the faster I get to bed, the better I'm going to feel in the morning when I get up to go back to work the next day. I don't have the luxury of saying, you know what, I had to work super late last night. I worked till 2, 3 in the morning. I need to take the day off. I don't get to do that. Being the owner, I got to go to work. I got to do my thing. So I appreciate your comment, and that's a great point, Brian. And I would encourage everybody, as much as possible, when you get service calls, you need to let them know within the criteria of what your company has set. You need to let them know, okay, I got to finish this and I'll get to it. Okay. My company, I have a criteria that I've told my customers for emergency service calls. I have a 2-hour response time. I will be there within 2 hours to the best of my ability. Okay. So if I have a walk-in freezer down, I'm going to get there within 2 hours. With that being said, the longer I wait to go do that call, the later I have to work, and the crappier I'm going to feel in the morning. So I tend to drop what I'm doing to go do the service calls, as frustrating as it sounds. I could be completely wrong for doing that. And I'm sure if I talk to a therapist or something, they'd tell me that's what's killing me, whatever. But that's just the way my crazy insanity driven brain works. So, in my recent video where I worked on, the fan blade and all that stuff with the lowered fan blade, I did find the extra capacitor that was missing. I mentioned that in the video. I don't know where the second capacitor was. It was strapped to the other motor. So I did find that. Okay. There was a lot of comments about the blade. So let's talk about that. I installed a new condenser fan blade and fan motor, and when I put it in, started it up, it was overamping and I was concerned. So I came back in with a smaller pitched or a lower pitched blade, and it started running where it should be. So I had a lot of questions. Well, since I put a different blade, is it going to change the airflow? Why didn't I try to move the blade up and down to try to reduce the airflow? I did everything I could. I moved that blade up as high as possible to try to reduce it, but it's still moving air, bottom line. So that didn't fix it. And in the end, I actually found out that the blade that I originally went in there with was the wrong pitch. Even though it looked the same, it wasn't. The blade that I put on in the end was actually the correct pitch. So I should have gotten my pitch tool, because I have a pitch tool that you can put on blades to check the pitch, and should not have trusted the supply house from the first time. So that was just my mistake. Alex had asked me a question about the best way to clean an evaporator on a walk-in cooler. So first off, obviously being safe, making sure you're shutting the equipment off properly, Alex. Remove all the fan blades and fan motors. Brush off with just a soft bristle brush. Brush the inside or the outside, wherever the dirt is at. Brush as much of it off as you can. And then what you're going to want to do is rinse the evaporator with hot water. Okay, and then also get some of the refrigeration technologies, the Hvacr HD cleaner, that is the yellow one, okay, that is evaporator safe. Put that on there, let it sit. It'll help to break things down. And then go ahead and give it a good rinse with hot water, paying attention. Before you guys rinse any evaporators, I always encourage you guys to make sure that the drain is clear and free of ice and everything, and make sure that it's got good flow before you start defrosting or even cleaning an evaporator, because all that stuff's going to go down. And then when you're done cleaning the evaporator, you need to put that hose on that drain again and make sure you get everything out, because now there's probably a bunch of crap stuck in there. Alex was asking where the best place to get some of the refrigeration technologies cleaners, because I did tell him to use the refrigeration technologies cleaners. If you can't get them at your local supply house, I encourage you guys to check out TrueTechTools.com. That's another great way you guys can support the channel. If you go to TrueTechTools.com and you use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, you'll get a discount on your order. As of today, August 30th of 2021, it's an 8% discount. And when you do that, that's actually an affiliate code. I get a very small commission from that, and you guys get to save some money. Okay, and if you guys know what you want to purchase, you can shoot me an email and I can actually generate an affiliate link, which will get me a little bit of an extra commission, and you still get to use the discount code Big Picture, so you still get the discount. I already answered that question. When we're defrosting evaporators, walk-in freezer evaporators, why is it that most of my evaporators are electric defrost? Why not use hot gas defrost? Electric defrost just is much easier to install. When you're doing hot gas defrost, you will typically have to run an extra line all the way from the condensing unit, typically all the way down to the evaporator. So that's really, it's all about installation costs. Electric is a lot easier because it just uses electricity. Hot gas defrost can also be problematic because it's rather hard on the system. You can have issues. So you just really have to make sure everything is sized and installed properly when you're using hot gas defrost. I can say that I don't think I have any active systems right now besides ice machines that actually use hot gas defrost. They don't. All my stuff is electric defrost. When I'm defrosting evaporator coils, when it's walk-in freezers and stuff, why do I not use a heat gun? I find heat guns to be very inefficient, and I find hot water to be much more efficient and effective at clearing ice on evaporator coils. Heat guns can be destructive. They can overheat components, they can melt wires, they can do all kinds of damage to the system, versus if you shut it off and remove all the motors, hot water is just much easier on the system. Plus, you're getting the drain cleared. I just find water to be much more effective at defrosting evaporators for sure. All right, let's see what else I'm missing in this chat right now. I'm going to push this over here so I can see it. There we go. Perfect. What did the electrician need to do in my recent video? Well, when I installed the walk-in freezer equipment like 2 years ago or a year ago, I had wanted the electrician to come in and power the evaporator independently, but I did not. Apparently, he never came in and did that. So I had pre-wired the system to make it super easy for him to bring up a separate circuit from the panel and wire my evaporators independently, but it just never got done. Try ESCO for studying. Their proctors only charge $80 for full. I'm assuming someone asked for an EPA test. Yeah, the ESCO Institute is a great way to get the EPA test and to get the study material for it. Orange County just shut down your trade school for 6 weeks. Free Funky, where are you at, bud? What do you mean Orange County? You mean Orange County, Florida, or Orange County, California? I'm curious about that, bud. Let's see. I don't know if I'll miss it. If I miss your comment in the chat, feel free to send me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com, but you can try to put it in the chat. How often do I see walk-in drains iced up? Walk-in freezer drains get iced up quite often, actually. Tri-tip for dinner tonight. Right on, Peter Smart. That's awesome. I don't know what I'm having for dinner tonight, actually. I don't know what my wife... I'm sure my wife has something planned, but she's at... That's one thing, too. As a dad, you know, real life struggles, real talk here. Something that I'm struggling with. My schedule sucks as it is, right? It's just a horrible schedule. Luckily, my wife doesn't work anymore. I'm super thankful for that. So that way she could be home with the kids as much as possible, because with 2 teenagers, they really need my wife's attention and my attention. But now both of my girls are in sports. You know, my oldest daughter's doing tennis. My youngest daughter's doing cheerleading. And that just adds more complexity to our schedules. You know, like dinner time had to be changed. But of course, we do anything for our kids and their health, right? And my kids being active is very important to their health and their sanity. So I'm all for it. It just throws a wrench in everything. So my daughter has cheerleading practice from 5, I think it's 5 to 8 or 6 to 8 or something like that. So it's just like right in the middle of dinner time. So now we don't have dinner until after her practice, which is like 8 o'clock, which is super late to have dinner. It's a whole thing, but that's life. I mean, we do what we can for our kids, right? Because our kids are the most important thing. I don't know about you guys. I'll bend over backwards. I could care less about most of my needs, and it's all about my kids and my wife is really my concern. Let me see what else we here. What am I missing? Hello to everybody. Anaheim, California. Really? Oh, you must have had a really bad COVID outbreak then, Free Funky. Feel free to send me an email, but I want to talk to you. hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I'd like to know a little bit more context there. You must have just had an outbreak. If it's in Anaheim, I'm pretty sure I know what school it is, but don't say it in the chat. Send me an email. We don't need to blast anybody on here. Let me see what else. Do I like scroll or rotary compressors? I prefer scroll compressors. I don't really deal with much rotary at all. Did I make it to prom or were I on call? Your dad is from the trade too. No, I made it to my proms. I wasn't officially working in the trade yet. So I grew up working for my father, right? From a young age, like junior high on, I would work every summer and every vacation off. But in high school, I stopped and I did a couple other jobs. My first job was like Carl's Jr., the burger place. I was the drive-through dude. Welcome to Carl's Jr. Would you like a double bacon cheeseburger today? You know, or would you like a guacamole bacon cheeseburger? I still remember all the taglines. Would you like to supersize that? That was when supersizing first came out. Or go big. I think it was go big or something. I don't know, whatever. But I did Carl's Jr. I worked for a body shop for a while, and it was a year out of high school that I officially came into HVAC full-time and became an official employee. But I definitely grew up in the trade. So I was able to make it to my prom and my wife's prom. Both of us are about a year apart, and she went to the rival high school. So I went to my prom, and then the next year I went to her prom. Let's see what else. We've been dating since high school. So you're on call and just got Chick-fil-A for dinner on the East Coast. Right on, John. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Chick-fil-A. I try some of their stuff. My favorite thing, they have a great breakfast sandwich just by itself. And then if I do get anything, I just like the chicken nuggets. The chicken nuggets by themselves. And that's about it. Lemonade from Chick-fil-A. But I really don't eat much else on their menu. Let's see. What else am I missing in here? Do I edit my videos or did I hire someone? No, I edit everything that I do. Man, I wish I could hire someone to edit my videos, but if you think about it, they wouldn't understand context. Nobody could edit my videos correctly because they wouldn't see the mistakes. They wouldn't see any of that stuff. So no, I edit everything. I do everything myself. Obviously, you can tell I edit my own videos because it's horrible editing. All I do is cut. I don't do anything fancy. Every once in a while, I'll put music in it or something. So let me see what else we got in here. What am I missing? No, I've never worked on Daikin VRV. I've never worked on anything variable refrigerant velocity, VRF, variable refrigerant flow. Never worked on any of those. Does water kill the shaded motors? Does the water kill the shaded motors? Yeah, you shouldn't get any kind of a motor wet, period. Do I make it? I already answered that question. What did the I already answered that question. Let me see what else. Do I ever work on VRF? No, I already answered that one. All right, cool. I answered that one right there. You had a rotary compressor that wouldn't pump down past 30 PSI. Is that common for rotary? I don't know if rotaries are meant to pump down that low. So like scroll compressors aren't really meant to pump down too low either. How much time goes into editing one of my videos? Well, it really depends. So for every video that I edit, I basically watch the video at least 3 times for the most part. So I usually do a rough edit. When I start the editing program, I just cut up the footage, and so I'll watch it one time, and then I realize, hey, I can trim this off, I can make it shorter here, I can cut this part out, this part's useless. So then I'll watch it again, and then when I'm finally done, I'll watch it one final time to do timestamps, because you got to caption, or I don't do captions, but you timestamp the video and stuff. So I'll typically watch them 2 to 3 times. So it's safe to say that at a minimum, whatever the video length is, multiply that by 3. And at a minimum, that's how long it takes me. Sometimes there might be more complex stuff to it. It's a really long video. It might take longer. I've spent as long as 6 hours editing videos before. It really depends. I do 2 videos a week, so I have a pretty tight schedule. I've been running behind on my videos, so I've typically been editing right before the video posts, so usually the day before, so I'm really last minute on it. As the winter time comes, I'll have more time to spend and I'll get a backlog of videos loaded up again. There's been times that I've had like up to 8 or 9 videos done and scheduled, and that's really nice because then you're not in a rush. Right now, I'm way behind on everything, so each video that you see was literally edited the day before. So, how much of a delay is there between posting a chat and me seeing it? It's pretty instantaneous. There's really no delay. I don't have like slow mode or anything turned on. It's just that there's so much going on that I don't get to it. So how the heck is this webcamchat.com thing keep popping up in here? I'm going to flag it as freaking spam. I know you guys are doing a good job as moderators, but how the heck do they keep coming in here? All right. Do I ever get annoyed watching myself make mistakes when I'm editing? Yeah. There's been times where I'll be watching things and it's like, how did I miss that one? I usually try to point it out when I edit the video, though. I'll be like, look, I totally missed this and saw it in editing and stuff. So yeah, that does happen. You haven't seen any semi-hermetic compressors in any of my videos. Do I even run across them? The 98 DeVille. They're getting very rare, man. I used to work on a lot of semi-hermetic stuff, but I can think of 1, 2, 3... I can think of like 5 systems that have semi-hermetic compressors, but that's it. They're really not that common. I used to work on them all the time. Changing valve plates and reeds and stuff on them was a common thing. I got to say, I mean, when you were doing semi-hermetics, changing out a semi-hermetic was usually pretty easy for the most part. Why do compressors sweat? Typically because the refrigerant gas coming back is typically below the dew point. So the temperature of the line is below the dew point, so you start to get condensation. That's all that it really means. Let me see. Look at you. You're currently taking a class for video editing. Right on, Trailmaster. Let's see. Are mini split line sets basically part of the evaporator? Yes, that is a very important thing to understand. Someone just posted about that. I saw a video. Someone that I follow just posted a video or a post or something like that. Someone posted it in the overtime group. That's right. Mini split line sets. The important thing to understand is that small 1/4 inch line is not a liquid line. It's an expansion line or a vapor line. It's an extension of the expansion valve. Typically, the expansion valve is going to be in the condensing unit itself, and then that 1/4 inch line is running, typically 1/4 inch line, is running from the expansion valve all the way to the evaporator. So both lines on a mini split need to be insulated. There will be condensation and it will cause massive damage if you do not have both lines insulated. It's not like a normal split system. So yes, okay, hopefully that answers your question. Let's see, what am I missing? Yeah, I just reported it to YouTube too, whatever that thing, that spammer was. Answered that one. Guys, this has been great. I think it's about time that I wrap this up. I really, really appreciate you guys. As usual, your guys' support is so humbling. Please stay tuned. If you haven't already, go follow my wife on HVACR Wife on Instagram and Facebook. Stay tuned because her and I are going to be doing our HVACR Life episode. Of course, I'll announce it and everything. But go support her new thing. Jason Johnson, that was you. It was? Okay, cool. Right on. That was a great post that you made, Jason. I remember approving it, and that was a great, great post. So just pointing out the fact. So in Jason Johnson's thing, he was saying that, I remember someone made the post in the overtime group, but he was pointing out that some dummy went and ran the line set like a normal split system and didn't insulate that expansion line or that vapor line, and they just had condensation leaks everywhere. And oh, good gosh, man, people not understanding what they're doing when they're installing stuff these days. Okay, when you buy a mini split line set, it comes with both lines insulated. It's that way for a reason, just like Jason had said. So definitely. All right, I really, really appreciate everybody. Let me see if I miss any questions here. What's the most catastrophic failure I've come across for a compressor or other component? I've had compressors installed incorrectly, wrong voltage. I've walked up and diagnosed a system where the customer said the other company couldn't figure it out and the compressor just was the wrong compressor. Wrong voltage, wrong whatever. That's a pretty interesting one. Have I ever used NAVAC tools? I have. I don't have a lot of them. So why would a year-old scroll compressor be loud from install? Something's probably going wrong. It's not installed right, or it's not sized right, or something. There's something going on there. All right. Well, I am going to wrap this one up, guys. I really, really appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and cue up the outro music. And again, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all the support, the super chats and stuff. You guys just humble me. Thank you very much. And we will catch you guys on the next one, okay? Why are you still here? I mean, you guys can't. I don't know what else to tell you. There's not any more content to give you. This is it. I don't have anything else. I mean, I went through my list of stuff to talk about. I talked about Spoilin'. We talked about their YouTube channel. We talked about the AWEF stuff. I'm out of content. I have nothing else to give you guys. So I don't understand why you're still here. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you guys. What do you want from me? What do you like? I don't know what else to give you. Okay? I don't know what else. So it's time you guys hit the X, the little X at the top of the YouTube thing, and go somewhere else. I mean, there's nothing else going on here. I'm just a dude standing here rambling. You got nothing else. Nothing else to give you. I mean, I technically still have this, but this won't last me very long at all when I take a drink of it. I got nothing else for you. I do love you guys. You guys are great. You keep me sane. You give me an excuse to talk to myself. That's what you guys do. You really do. Hey, Peter, dude, Shukin, holy moly, thank you guys so much. I didn't expect more super chats, but you guys are awesome. Thank you. Peter, Stuper Sticker, Shunkin Flash. I'm joking, but I mean, you know, that's it. You guys need to go. Go to your home. Are you too good for your home? Go to your home. Just tap it in, guys. Just tap the X button and move on. Just move on. Keep going. Keep going. All right. I will keep streaming until this is gone, okay? See ya.